And we do have some notifications I need to send out to people, but we are now in our countdown. 3 minutes to go and we'll get live on air. And as always, thank you so much indeed. If you are watching this right now, that means that you have your notifications turned on, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much indeed. And if you don't, well, get yourself down to the notification bell, subscribe, and of course, join us each and every Wednesday and Sunday. As always, the chat is up and running as well. I've just turned the video on Facebook public, which means that is now taking comments. So if you're watching this on Facebook, you should be getting your comments on there as well. On YouTube, on Twitch, and on Periscope. Anytime, anything you want to talk about today, as always, jump in on the comments and we'll dive in with anything you want to get into today. And as always, I'd like to say thank you to our amazing Patreon supporters. At this point, during COVID lockdown, every penny counts, and every donation that has been put forward really does allow us to keep the lights on and do what we do. We've got Aaron Neighbors who's saying hello, hola, from San Diego. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Aaron. We've got ourselves Michael P as well. Good morning to you. Quick update as well about the rest of the shows for the rest of the month. Yes, this Wednesday is scheduled to be Bill Sienkiewicz. It's scheduled to be. It's all now down to Bill. It is our rescheduled show. It's down to, I know that I've had a couple of comments on previous episodes along the lines of, we'll believe it when he shows up. And that I totally understand because it was a no-show. But the conversations and communications that I've had via email, we are up and running. We are ready for Wednesday. And I'll tell you right now, the emails I've sent out to him, I've turned around and said that we're going to try and keep it to the strict hour. No, I'm not. I'm going to stretch that bugger out as long as I possibly can. It's Bill Sienkiewicz, for God's sake. Damn right I'm going to get as much of it as I possibly can. Looking forward to it. That's going to be on Wednesday. And then next Sunday, last show of the month, we do have the return of Russ Burlingame and Mike Avelia. We had a great time with them last time they were on the show. And so much has happened since we had them on. The world just changes on a daily basis now. I think we all agree. So it's a case of, yeah, let's get them back on, and really looking forward to seeing the guys. There we go. Hello there. If this is your first time watching this, because I know that we're going to be sharing this particular episode out to various platforms. My name is Leonard Sultana. I podcast under an Englishman in San Diego, and I run this, Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego, each and every Wednesday and Sunday, talking Comic-Cons, con culture, and all the stuff and nonsense that we get to enjoy at such shows when they run. Obviously, 2020, it's strange, confusing, and wonderful times. And to talk about that, we've got ourselves our first podcast mashup. It's a podcast which I'm a huge fan of. They do incredible work online, not just talking about Comic-Cons, but also everything pop culture at theconguy.com. And we have got the con guy, Jim Fry, joining us, and we have the con girl, Katie, as well. Hello there. How are you?
Leonard, this is so great. It's early in the morning where we're at here in myself and Katie are both in Los Angeles, but it was funny because Leonard was tweeting out, "Hey guys, grab a margarita for the show." I'm like, it's a little early in the morning for that, but I got my screwdriver, so I am ready to go.
I'm doing it slightly wrong because it's 6 o'clock here in the UK, and I've got tea because that's the name of the podcast, and I really am up for a margarita right now. I'm just we're in that kind of period of lockdown. I could really do with a margarita. And since we're all on screen, this is where, and because it is a true podcast mashup, we have graphics on screen as well, so we can kind of let everybody know where they can see our own efforts. So I've had my introduction. It's time to let Jim and Katie have theirs. Take it away, guys. Let everyone know who you are and what you do. I think we'll start with
Katie.
Ladies first. Katie.
Okay. I am Katie Kawamoto. I am the female part of the con guy. I do our convention update, and I also do other hosting stuff for AfterBuzz TV. So I get to do after shows for other shows on TV, which is fun. And I'm also a cosplayer, so I kind of have that cosplay angle when it comes to it.
Which shows do you do, Katie?
Right now, I'm doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show every Thursday night. But I did do Batwoman, and I also did Riverdale as well. So
nice.
Yeah.
And my name is Jim Fry, aka the Fry Guy. We call Katie I'm the con guy. She's the con girl. So it's a pretty good thing. We have some more hosts on our show: Ben Cleaver, Luke Cheeseman, and Derek Sams. They're really good hosts. But we started the website The Con Guy about 4 years ago. The podcast is going for about 4 years, and like you said, Leonard, it's we are fans first and we are podcasters second. We are passionate about what we do. All of us met through attending the cons, and we became friends, and all of us have other things. Like myself and Luke, we are screenwriters. Derek's a screenwriter as well. Ben's an actor. Katie's into cosplay and costuming, and she's also done some production. So all of us are going to the conventions anyway, and we love what we do. So why not do something that lets us kind of get a little bit more involved? So that's kind of where the Con Guy came from. And so we have a podcast. Ours is usually on Monday nights, and we don't do every week. That rascally thing called the day jobs gets in the way of us being able to do it every week. And so plus I pay so well that no, you know how that goes. So I can't stress everybody out so much, but it's a great bunch of people. If you guys get a chance, check us out at theconguy.com. And Leonard is a friend of ours. I met Leonard at San Diego Comic-Con.
D23.
Yeah. Well, that was the second time. Yeah, D23 we did meet, and we got to go in and sneak in the side and get. I don't want to tell anybody that, but we got to sneak in the side and go up. And when that Marvel movie panel is showing at D23, I can tell you the lines at D23 are a little bit more challenging, I would think, than almost any convention. So, anyways, that's how me and Leonard met.
Yes, I remember that particular show because it was the time that we decided we were going to hit California in a big way. We'll do D23 and then we'll do San Diego.
They were 1 week apart.
It was just 1 week apart, and we would just absolutely hit both shows as hard as we possibly could. And I'd done San Diego since 2010, sorry. So I thought I knew what camping out meant. And then I did D23, which is like some form of torture. It is some kind of organized, it's sensory, not deprivation, it's overload. All the lights are on, the air conditioning was full tilt, it was on the concrete down in the basement. That is something that they were playing Disney films throughout the course of the evening, over the course of the night. Tangled and Rogue One are two of my favorite films, and along with myself and my other half, we now can't watch those films anymore. We have been scarred from watching those films because they were blasted out, and that was insane.
Oh, you spent the night down in the basement with everybody and waiting overnight. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yes. That's how lunatic I am. There we go.
Well, it was interesting, and it was kind of an innovative thing. In an attempt to get people off the outside sidewalk and camping out, they created another giant hall. Come camp out inside, and we'll show movies all night. Which, we'll keep you awake all night long.
That was insane, absolutely insane. But no, okay. Remind me where I'd seen you beforehand, then, because I think it's safe to say that, especially when you're doing San Diego Comic-Con,
yes,
it's a case of everything turns into a bit of a blur.
It is. We met at San Diego Comic-Con. I think the year before or 2 years before. Our mutual friend Tony Kim, who Crazy for Comic-Con and Hero Within, he had the Game of Bloggers party that he was throwing down at Comic-Con, and we all met there. So that's when you and I first met.
There was alcohol involved. That's why I can't remember that.
I'm surprised I remember.
At Comic-Con? No, you don't say.
So, I mean, I haven't met Katie before. What's your kind of con history then, Katie? What shows that would you find yourselves usually at?
Usually WonderCon and San Diego Comic-Con. I think I went to Comic-Con in San Diego the first time in 2013, but I think that might have been the year where I only went to Nerd HQ because I didn't actually get approved in time to get my badge. So I've been 7 or 8 years consistently since then. And I hang out with these guys, and same with WonderCon, because WonderCon used to be where I lived. I used to live in Anaheim, so I used to go to WonderCon all the time because I could just drive from my house there. Done some LA Comic-Cons, some Long Beach Comic-Cons, and then I've gone to a few conventions where I just outside cosplaying. I did that for Anime LA, so I kind of, and then we do scare conventions as well. So
fair enough.
Midsummer Scream, those things. So yeah,
Cool.
I want to go to Dragon Con eventually, but I haven't yet.
I want to do Emerald because I just hear it's a bit of a party con, but that's just me.
Same with Dragon Con in Atlanta. It's called what was Bernie always calling it? Something Palooza, Con Palooza.
Well, I think it's just like the party con one, because it's like it's always partying from what I've heard.
And I think it's the only one that might happen this year too.
Yeah.
This is very true. I mean, what was the last convention you two managed to get to?
For me, it was Long Beach Comic Expo down in Long Beach, California, back in January. And it was really early this year, and people were complaining. But now everybody's like, yes, we got one convention in this year. Katie, did you go to Long Beach this year?
I don't think I did, because I think that was my sister's bridal shower, I think.
What was your last con, Katie?
I think mine was actually Comic-Con, because I wasn't able to go to LA Comic-Con because of wedding stuff as well. So I think that might have been my last one, and unless I went for like a day somewhere, but I honestly think that was. So kind of sad. A year ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, let's also put that out to our audience as well. Let's do a bit of reminiscing. What was the last convention that you guys went to? I mean, I know Dan Berry's watching, and I know exactly what he's going to say, because I think the last one he went to was indeed at San Diego Comic Fest, which is now, scarily enough, the biggest comic convention that San Diego is going to have this year, which is, you don't get that phrase said too often. We've got ourselves a whole bunch of people that are watching. Leanne D, good morning, welcome along. Sarita P reminding us it's Happy Father's Day. If your father's close at hand, if you've been able to at least send them an email or a message and pass on the best words. All the best to fathers out there. We've got Lister Smeg. I think the lines at all cons will be a little bit more manageable this year. It's safe to say that's that's a fair assumption. And Aaron Neighbours missing the game of bloggers. It was a fun. It was a fun thing that Tony did.
It was so great. I love Game of Bloggers.
Yep. Michael P reminding us Dragon Con is a bigger party. Fair enough. It's nice to know that I'm missing out. So yeah. So I mean, I suppose the first question I can start with, because it's something that I felt when the lockdown happened and when the conventions started disappearing off the calendar. It's obviously the show that I do is about convention news and updates. What challenges does a con website have with kind of moving forward when there are no conventions? I mean, what has the con guy been doing without any cons?
Surprisingly, we've done more shows. Because we're all sitting at home and we have time on our hands. I mean, Katie, would you say that's kind of true?
Yeah, and we've had more shows because even if like two of us aren't available, some of us are pretty much always available. And not only that, but our guests that we can have is actually more expansive because they're at home too. And so instead of having to come to a studio, they can hop on a call with us and be on the show. So it's kind of helped us a little bit, I'd say.
Yeah, it's kind of weird though. Yeah. Because like Katie, she started a new segment on the show. We used to always preview upcoming cons, but that kind of part of our show went away. So Katie, though, she has this segment on the show called Katie's Con Updates. And so she will talk about what shows have been canceled, but which ones are going online. And for us, we kind of did shift this year. And I think it's a good shift for us. We started thinking, all right, if nobody's going to any cons this year, let's shift our show a little bit. Instead of news about cons, let's just start hosting panels that would be at cons. Nice. So that's kind of what we still, Katie does her updates. We have news of the week, but the majority of our shows are now panels. For example, just this past week, we had a fantastic panel. Because of the unrest and the Black Lives Matter protests, which are been happening, we thought it would be irresponsible for us to ignore that. So we got a great host of some Black professionals in the field. we had a lawyer on our show. We had one of the directors of some of the WB animated movies on the show, and then a college professor who also wrote a book about Star Trek. All three of them fantastic folks. If you guys get a chance, check it out this week on our site. It was Black Lives in Fandom. And
Nice.
what is it that people in fandom and that usually attend the cons, what ways do we see that we can fight racism? What ways are for us to be voices to amplify voices that need to be heard? So it was a great, and the thing about it, all three of them were friends of the show, fantastic people, but it was we actually lost some subscribers to our YouTube channel. People got upset that we were being political or
Really?
whatever. Yeah, it's odd.
Wow.
Yeah.
I find that surprising because I mean, if anything, when I go to San Diego Comic-Con or go to any convention, it's very much embracing the liberal arts. So it's very much that kind of embracing nature of just general life, and the way that they embrace their fandoms, they also embrace other fandoms, and there's a little bit more of acceptance. I'm stunned that there was a drop in audience.
Well,
I mean,
not a big drop.
Do you have a kind of rough idea of how many we were talking?
It wasn't a big drop. It was when I say
it was noticeable though.
It wasn't notable. It was just we were seeing in the comment section people saying, I'm unsubscribing. Our response, of course, was good riddance. We don't need you anyways. So, for real, if someone's going to be hateful about it, I get it. Everybody has their differences of opinion. We always try to be down the middle. We don't want to offend anybody. But when it comes to saying, hey, nobody should die because they get pulled over by a police officer, we're going to stand by that, and we're not going to veer off that. And I don't think we even got political on the show. Do you think, Katie? Katie was one of the hosts. No. I sat that one out, but you guys did great. Katie, you guys did great. By the way, I do have to say Happy Father's Day to my dad. And I have to say Happy Father's Day to Derek Sams, who is a host on our show. This is his first year as a dad. So,
oh, excellent! Congratulations, sir.
So but like just to let you know, so we did switch over to the panel concept, and we had some great panels lately. We for example, myself and Katie and Luke, we were able to interview Greg Nicotero from the Walking Dead franchise. The creative genius by it, and we would not have gotten that interview had we not all been sitting at home. It's the only way that we got him, because he was sitting at home and had nothing to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think I had the same kind of setup with the kind of guests that I've managed to get on, and it is a case of I mean, when the lockdown happened here in the UK, I instantly decided to do a show on a Wednesday as well.
You went to 2 shows a week. I was like, how is he doing that?
Wow. Well, I mean, I think that it was for 2 reasons. Number one, so that there would be a real sense of community with the people that were in the audience. I mean, even if it was a case of me just talking nonsense to camera for half an hour, it would be some way for people who wouldn't be going to conventions, would be in lockdown, just to come together at least twice a week and just talk and just join together as a community. The second reason was a little bit selfish in the idea of actually marking time, because if it wasn't for the twice a week on a Wednesday and a Sunday, I'd have lost all sense of what day it was, how many weeks we'd had, and I'd have just slightly fraying at the edges. I'd have just kind of really lost it. But same with yourselves. I mean, it was a case of the level of guests that I was able to get on the show just went up. And just absolutely, it's taken off with the people that we've been able to get on the show. So Leonard,
I got to tell you, I got to give you a challenge. You have one of the better shows out there that covers this topic. I love your show, but when I go jogging, I have a hard time. You need to get on more platforms. I need to hear you so I can download onto my podcast.
I think the difficulty with that is I have a problem with listening to my own voice. So editing it would be a big challenge. And there's only so many ums and ahs and English pause, so like the English pauses, which I think would just trim a hour show down to 35 minutes. It's just a case of trimming it. I appreciate what you're saying, and you're not the only person to say it as well. So, yes, I'd like to. I don't know. It's something that I'm going to have to address and go audio wise.
At least get on Apple. I want to be able to download and listen to you when I go for a jog. I tell you what, because that's when I got in touch with you a couple of weeks ago. Said, where can I find you? And you're like, oh, sorry. Because your show is so great. I love your show.
Thank you. I do upload to SoundCloud, and it does push to Apple. It's just I haven't uploaded audio for such a long time, and I think that's just. I think the other reason as well is when I have a conversation with the guests, I like to see their faces, like I'm doing right now. It's a case of I like to have an actual face-to-face conversation, as it were. So that audio thing kind of it's a little bit of a cognitive shift, I think, for me. But yes, you're not the only one to say it. So maybe I'll just have to. I mean, as part of the platform that we use here, which is StreamYard, and I know that there are various podcasts that use this platform. There is actually a button which allows you to download the audio just straight away in full quality. And I should just download it, upload it, and just I should
no editing, just let it go.
Yeah,
I've been told. Okay.
No, that's that's where I listen to most of my podcasts, either in the car or when I'm out with my headphones on. So yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, I do appreciate. Thank you very much indeed to Luke Cheeseman. Englishman has the best voice.
He does.
You know what?
Thanks, Luke. Thanks.
Just before, well, it was last year. I did a recording of the Double Clicks, and they did it the song "Oh Mr. Darcy," and in there is the line, "Just because a guy has a cute English accent doesn't make them clever or smart." And and it was their first show in the UK, and everyone in the room just went, "Yeah, you've got our number on that one. Thank you." So
but we here in the stateside, though, we don't know that. I'm just going to tell you, we'll listen to anybody who has an English accent.
When I go out to San Diego, when I go out to California, the received pronunciation definitely does get ramped up a little bit. It does. The BBC accent kicks in. I'm from Yorkshire. I mean, it doesn't kind of work like that. But certainly when it comes to the shows that I've been looking forward to going to, I mean, obviously San Diego was going to be the linchpin of my return because we didn't go last year. And it was a case of, as the summer rolled on and as the pandemic really did make its effects felt, all these shows started to domino. When did you guys realize? Because, I mean, there was definitely a moment for myself where you just realized, this is 2020 pretty much a wash, or near as damn it. When was that moment when you just went, this is a major, we knew it was a major thing, but this is something that really is going to affect all the way down the year?
I was with Katie. Katie, do you remember? It was my last public appearance.
Yeah, me, Luke, and Jim went to a Friday the 13th 40th anniversary screening. And even then, when we got to the theater, it was all contactless. Like, they scanned our tickets. They all had gloves. They all had masks. And this was like at the very, very beginning.
March 13th.
March 13th. And I think that's when it started to kick in that this is a big thing. Because they had social distancing in the movie theater when we actually watched the movie and like that, and we all thought this is a little.
Yeah, we were all like, it was every other row, every other seat. Everybody was very spread out, and it was kind of like it was a Friday the 13th 40th anniversary celebration, which we did a show. We were planning to do a show on that, but that Saturday is when I personally, I was being a little bit selfish because it had that Friday, and Katie, I think I told you, I said, don't come near me. I think I'm starting to feel a fever at the theater. And then I was like, so I was like, this thing's really hitting. Then I went down Saturday, and I was down with a fever for 10 days, couldn't eat, and all the other gross stuff that happened with it. And then when I came back, it was like the world had changed. Like, I was down. We had podcasts that we were doing that I was not involved with. And by the time I came back, I was back up and running. All the conventions were being canceled. Yeah. I don't know when WonderCon, it was supposed to be in March, right? Or March or April this year.
Yeah.
And so that was the big one, yeah.
At first, they postponed it. And then, like a week later, they completely canceled it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I seem to remember that. I mean, that was the one for me because it was also, I mean, we kind of alluded to this just before we came on air about the fact that the world just changes every 2-3 days. It's just like you have to almost reassess where you are on a societal level, just personally, the way that you operate and go out into the world and do what you need to do. Everything changes almost day to day and every couple of days. And for WonderCon, I remember it because they canceled it the week before.
Right.
It was a very last minute decision,
Yep.
but it was when they realized that this was a big thing.
But I also think, didn't they have to get the order from the governor for their
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so that they could, their insurance could kick in. I think they were waiting for that. But we all kind of knew they were going to cancel.
And it was one of those things where it really did happen that quickly, at least here in Southern California. I mean, I was at work, and at the end of the day, they said, yeah, y'all aren't coming back for a while. Like, we were at work, we were scheduled a few more days, and then they literally were told, you know, we can't have more than this many people in the building. And that was it. And then from that, it was just cancellation after cancellation after cancellation, like concerts, everything. So
I find it interesting with the timings of the cancellations. It's like you say, I mean, we've kind of had it here in the UK as well with MCM, with London Film Comic Con, which is still technically going ahead. You've got Lakes, which made their decision very early on, but you've had Thought Bubble, which was scheduled to happen in November. That's got that window of about 3 months. The timings of various conventions and the times when they're making that decision to cancel, I find has been very interesting, especially with the likes of Star Wars Celebration, making that call very early on, but also making the decision to postpone, to cancel completely and just move straight on to 2022. And yet we have yet to hear about New York Comic Con, which
no way.
You don't think?
No, they were the epicenter. There are more deaths in New York City, I think, isn't it, than anywhere else in the world? Don't quote me on that, but I think the number of deaths and cases in New York City was so severe. The Javits Center became one of the makeshift hospitals, and that's where I just don't, not this year. It won't, that's my personal opinion. I have no insider, and it's the same folks who do Star Wars Celebration, Reed Pop. And Leonard, I think that Reed Pop waited way late for Star Wars Celebration. I think that one was a surprise. Yeah, that California had already declared the state of emergency. All the other conventions had been canceled, and everybody's wondering, like, what's happening with Star Wars Celebration? Yeah. I'm not completely sure what was taking so long, unless they were trying to figure out, like an online alternative or something. But my personal opinion is that New York Comic Con will not happen this year. I don't see how they could. I don't see how the people of New York would be okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, I was scheduled to go.
I've never been. I really want to go.
Yeah, I was going to go in last year, at which point I seem to remember they canceled flights for some reason, or something happened, but whatever. And I wasn't able to go. So I don't know what the Javits Center is like in terms of what it's set up for any kind of social distancing will be like in terms of moving people around. Because here in the UK, there's a show that is technically still scheduled to go ahead, which is Wales Comic Con, which is going to be taking place in Telford. And the building itself, there is some way of one in, one out. There is a natural flow to the building, which you can possibly do. Possibly. Is the Javits Center set up in any way that you can have a flow of people to even carry on going ahead at this point? If it could. Yeah, I mean, I know, Jim, you're saying you can't see how it can. Could it?
From what I have been told, by the way, I have not been to the New York Comic Con. It's on my wish list to get to. But we've had very many guests on our show who do go to New York Comic Con, and what they say is that you don't know crowds until you go to New York Comic Con, because whereas San Diego, you have the giant campus where people can spread out all across downtown San Diego. It's a lot of open air. In New York, the Javits Center, you're all condensed down into a space. Granted, it's a large convention center, but I agree with Michael Pia, who is saying no on Javits Center right now. And it's not going to happen in New York City. Javits wasn't used. Only a few cases went there, but now that New York City is open again, people are not taking precautions. That's New York is just like it's ground zero for what happened here in the States, and so I just don't see that they'd be ready this year. Not until there's a vaccine will New York be open for such a convention. That's my opinion.
We've had comments like that on the show on previous episodes. There is a case of, I mean, that's what I'm going to be asking you in a minute. I mean, how you feel, what circumstances you feel would be needed for you to get back to a convention. Let's go through a couple of comments. And yeah, I've been reminded about why I didn't go to New York Comic Con. The airline went bust. Yes, that was it, and it happened 2 weeks before.
Which airline was that?
It was Thomas Cook, and they just went completely. They just died, pretty much. Yes, I remember that. However, in my defense, and the reason why I couldn't remember it now, it has been about 5 decades since this year has begun. So it's felt like an eternity, and that cancellation and that new Thomas Cook thing feels like years ago. It feels like forever. You've got Leanne D reminding us the Javits Center is still on standby as an emergency hospital.
Oh wow!
Into the Blue Mist. It's all very well talking about the logistics of what a convention center can do, but a con is nothing with no guests willing to travel. Very, very, very good point.
That is real good.
Karma Savage, New York City itself doesn't know when New York City is happening. While it's happening, it's that crowded. Yeah, good point. Let's have a look. Andy Dickinson on Periscope. March 13th was my last game show. Everyone ended up saying, see you on the other side. And that's when it got real.
Yeah, I remember how. Yeah, March the 13th, Friday the 13th for us. That was
bad Friday the 13th. Like, I think that's going to give it all a bad name. Is the 13th, you know.
And to go a little bit further back regarding the conversation about the BLM movement and the comments you got on your channel, I'm not stunned. I've seen some arseholes being hateful on the BLM movement in the fandom community. However, Jim, you have a new subscriber, and I will let my friends know to subscribe.
Oh, Michael, we're so glad to have you. We want more people like Michael.
Yeah.
There you go. It really is a case of it is a case of coming together and absolutely that support of each other. Michael P, our last one before we crack on. The governor wants to keep Javits Center as a standby for the second wave. Yeah, that's something that I find interesting, the conversation that's happened in that the second that I'm not going to say a distraction, because that is absolutely not what the protests were, and what caused those protests was. It wasn't a distraction. It was a social event. But it's a case of that eye of Sauron shifted from the priority of COVID to the priority of this. I'm waiting for the eye to shift back to second wave. So it's I think almost inevitable at this point.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I'm trying to make a point to go back and visit my mom and dad, who I see a couple of times every year. They're in the other coast, but they're both 7. My mom's going to kill me for saying that. Let's just say they are at a vulnerable age.
Yeah,
I may not see them till next year now. You know,
wow,
it's gonna be one of those things.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, let's talk about conventions and mass meetings. I mean, we can talk about the influence of like has been brought up, the guests of actually getting people to see at a convention. But what is it, a vaccine that would get you back at a convention at this point, or can you see a situation where a convention makes every effort to social distance, to mask, to shield? Is there a situation where you two could find yourself back at a show this year? Or is it this year that's gone?
Katie, I'd love to hear what you say. Yeah,
I'm a little bit more optimistic than most, I'd say. I always want to give people the chance to make something safe for people and see how it goes before just automatically assuming it won't work, if that makes sense. You know, if they are able to find a way to limit the amount of people that go in, I don't know how they would, especially with some of these, 100,000 people, not typical shows. But I like to keep it optimistic that there is ways to do it. It just takes a lot of planning and that's the thing that I think is the issue, because there's not the time to make that kind of plan, or the money, since everybody's losing all this money, that also takes money. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't go this year. It just, there's a lot of different things that would have to work or happen for me to go.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm the same way. I'm very apprehensive. Again, I'm one of the people who got sick, and I saw how, like, don't wait to see your parents, get yourself tested, scrubbed. Okay, can I answer Michael P about this? Get yourself tested, sanitized. I have, maybe it's easier other places. I have an appointment today to get tested at 3:10 California time. I have gone to my primary care physician 3 times. Twice when I was sick, would not let me come in for a test, and now they won't let me come in for a test because you're not showing symptoms, so you're not going to come in. And so I'm going to have to fib a little bit and tell the testing center I go to, oh no, I don't have a primary care, because if you have a primary care, you have to go through them first, here in the States at least, or with my insurance plan. So it's hard for me to get tested. I am fully covered. I have great insurance, except for right now, I can't get tested to save my life.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. A lot of people are having that issue.
Yeah. So. And LA was very progressive in that it's set up testing centers all over the city. I think it was one of the first cities in the country where testing is free for everybody. You had to get online, you had to make an appointment, you had to go get tested. But one of the questionnaires in the LA, it was like, do you have a primary? The only way for me to get accepted in there is if I don't have a primary. Well, this may have changed. So I'm going to see, because I do want to get tested, because some of us on the Con Guy show, we're helping a band do a fundraiser tomorrow for one of the Black-owned businesses that was burnt down in Minneapolis. We're trying to raise money to bring them back, but they want everyone to be tested before we show up tomorrow. And even though we're still social distancing and we're kind of apart, we just want to be really safe. The answer is a long answer that says, I think I would. I do think I would go to a smaller convention right now. But I would definitely be feeling it out. I would be always in the mask. And I know that's a point of controversy for a lot of people, but if I'm around a group of people, you don't know who's there.
Yeah.
I do not understand that at all.
I don't either. I don't
understand that.
Yeah.
You're taking away my rights. No, we're not. We're not. I don't want you to kill my mom and dad. So keep your mask on.
Yeah. Back to the things.
And you can make masks a fashion statement. You know, if you're all the people watching, you know, we're all nerds here. I have a Marvel mask I made out of Marvel fabric, and every time we go out, everybody's like, "Oh, I love your mask." So you know, you can make it a fashion statement. So
my mom, who is on the conservative side of politics, fully endorses the masks, and she made me a Star Wars mask, a Black Panther mask, Marvel mask, and mailed them to me at the beginning of the pandemic. Because at the beginning, I couldn't find a mask here in LA. They were sold out everywhere. You couldn't find one. So we were all wearing bandanas, or we all looked like, you know, we were robbing a store or something, you know. But smaller conventions, Leonard, I'd go to a smaller convention with trepidation. Probably a larger convention like San Diego, not until there is some kind of vaccine for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before we do talk about a show that is advertising that's going ahead, and I'm not too sure what the scale is of that particular thing, I am going to bring this one up because we don't get political too much on this show, but I did quite like this one. More people did get into Hall H than turned up to Tulsa last night.
Yes.
Well, then maybe we should have Comic-Con.
No, yeah. It's funny that you said, I think it was Andrew that said that, because I've seen some band people commenting similar like that. I've seen longer lines at my concerts than, you know, at certain events. And I'm like, that's true. Like Hall H, you know, you have what, 5,000 people?
6.5.
No, it's 65. Right? Yeah, 65.
Yeah.
So
insane.
A lot of people.
I've heard talks though that next year it might be a much smaller hall.
Well, yes. I mean, we'll get into what we can expect or what we would like to see possibly for 2021. I mean, the one that I wanted to very quickly talk about is about shows that are still scheduled to go ahead here in the UK and also in the US. We've got London Film and Comic Con, which is yet to announce any kind of change. That was scheduled to take part on the weekend of San Diego, so it would be the third week in July. You do have Tampa which is still advertising. And if you follow their Facebook page, which I do, out of almost some kind of morbid curiosity, because they are advertising aggressively that they are getting guests in, and they are going to be running that show in Tampa.
Florida?
In Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
As
What's
far
the
as I'm
date
aware,
of that show?
As far as I'm aware, isn't Florida and indeed Tampa in particular a hotspot at this point?
Yes. It's been, it's ongoing.
Yeah.
Because they're more open than much of the country, though. Like Florida did open up, and it depends on which part of the state you're in, because I have a lot of friends who live in Florida. Miami especially is a hot spot right now. The Keys, of all places, the freest part when I say the freest, most laid back part, they just announced that face masks are required in the Florida Keys until June 2021.
Whoa!
That's a year from now. So I think Florida is about.
We were talking about this before we came on air, about the whole idea of very draconian measures for our own benefit, but very strict measures. And we were talking about how I felt that if in the UK, US, and more freer and in our enlightened democratic societies, if the restrictions have been put down and been put down hard, like they had been in China, Italy, Spain, etc., the snapback, the reaction would have been a lot harder and a lot more violent. And so I think certainly in the UK, we had the interesting technique of just confusing everyone with lots of mixed messages, lots of vague announcements. There you go. And so you had that in the US as well. In that, there were lots of different messages going out area to area. So the reaction wasn't as severe. Everyone decided, okay, let's all come together. But now it's a case of those kind of restrictions, like you say, masks insisted on until next year. I'm wondering what the societal ramifications are going to be. The snapback is just going to be huge. But to return to Tampa, I'm really curious as to the mentality of a convention organizer being that bullish about its announcement of its guests. Do you think that a responsible convention organizer should at this point just be really cautious about making any announcements, or should they just go ahead as if everything's going to go to plan?
No, you can't go on like everything's just the same as normal. I'm surprised that Tampa's being so aggressive. I am looking at a list of it looks like conventions, because I'm looking at the long list here. Although there are some cancellations, if a convention is happening towards the end of July on through the rest of the year, I'm not seeing a ton of cancellations yet. So across, I'm surprised there's so many still scheduled.
Yeah.
A lot of them rescheduled, right, to July and August, thinking we'd be out of the thick of it. So we haven't heard a lot about that yet.
But I do say, like in Florida, that Florida is very, very I don't know. Those people love the outdoors. They love the beaches. I used to live in Florida. I know that Orlando, the city of Orlando itself, they're flummoxed because the cases in Orlando are so low. And you would think that Orlando would be off the charts because it's international travelers from the whole world. But Orlando is one of the lowest spots in the state. I don't know about Tampa yet. I know that Miami is having a big spike in a big way right now. So maybe it's different parts of Florida. I just don't know.
Yeah. Karma Savage is reminding us that the same company that runs Tampa Bay Comic Con, which is Imaginarium, has also been given the green light to continue the hosting of Atlanta Comic Con in July. Marina Sirtis is still listed.
Oh, wow.
Which is just wow. Oh, hang on. The comments are coming in. I keep hitting the wrong button. Florida governor finally admitted rising virus numbers wasn't strictly due to more testing. But then again, we had that delightful comment from Donald last night. Thank you very much indeed about testing. Well done, that man. Indeed, get Trump to make an appearance and nobody will show up. Which, bold but true. Harsh but fair. I think then the way that responsible conventions, and we're getting that here in the UK with the likes of Lakes and MCM and also Thought Bubble, which the Lakes and Thought Bubble are comic centric conventions. So they can very much deal with putting on showcases and putting on workshops online. The virtual convention seems to be the standard state of play in conventions, and you're seeing that here in the US as well. At which point you have to ask then, who has got it right so far out of all of the various approaches that we've seen so far, and who's kind of dropped the ball? Which has been the best show that you've seen do a virtual convention so far? Katie?
I haven't seen a lot of them. I've experienced the WonderCon, which was just very last minute, and they didn't really advertise it enough, I didn't think. Granted, it was like the first one that they did that for. It seemed, I know Emerald City did a little bit of stuff online, but again, it was kind of last minute. So I think it's cool. I feel like there is still a lot of stuff you got to figure out, because with the whole, do we charge or do we make it free for everybody? Now, it's awesome that more people are able to see the content if it's free, but it does take something away from the people who are used to getting a more tailored experience for paying money to see some exclusive stuff or things like that. So I'm kind of 50-50 on like whether or not they should be paid or whether they shouldn't be.
That makes sense. Jim?
Some people here in Los Angeles threw a pretty good online convention. Katie, do you remember the name of Bernie's convention that his company did? Because they had a lot of different podcasting companies come together and a bunch of people, and they had some really good guests. And it was a well done convention. It stopped at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night. It was 2 days. It was scheduled online, and it was live streaming. At the end of the night, they had.
So what is it? A continuous from 10 till 6? It was
10 till 6 all day, different panels all day. And I think you could even choose your panels. I'm not sure. And then at the end of the day, they had the after hours portion, which was hosted by that hashtag show, did an after hours portion for anyone who wanted to stay late. It was a really good concept. It was very early. It was the second weekend of May. And so it was probably one of the first out there that did that. I agree with Katie that WonderCon could have been better, but I think WonderCon was not planning on a virtual convention. No. It was something they pulled together. The Con Guy show, we actually did one of their panels for WonderCon, and it got, and I was on 2 panels for the WonderCon at home. And for San Diego, though, I do think that it's a whole different thing. It's being hosted July 23rd through the 26th on the actual days of San Diego. The Con Guy has a panel on the 26th. I think it's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that Sunday. So they're actually treating it as if you have your schedules, you will find out your panels.
I was going to ask you about that. Not necessarily. I'm not going to ask for details. All right. That's. I'll leave that one alone. But had you applied for a panel for the actual physical San Diego Comic-Con, and as such, was it a case of, okay, we're not putting on the actual show, let's have you do the panel in a virtual space? Had you already applied, or was this something that came once the show went virtual, as it were?
We've done a WonderCon panel. We did our very first WonderCon panel was last year, right. And so because of that, we kind of you got into the system of where they send out a request. We had not done a Comic-Con panel, so we just said, hey, if you're doing Comic-Con at home, let us know. We would also be interested in doing that. At which point they did get back in touch with us, and we submitted 3 panels. We were accepted for 1. We got the Power Rangers panel back.
Yeah,
so
nice.
And our WonderCon panel did really well too, which helped.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I mean, obviously, you can't reveal any details. I'm not sure if you know any at all yourselves, but I'm really curious to see how they're actually going to do the virtual convention, because at the end of the day, the big problem that San Diego has, and it's a great problem to have, is the wealth of content. The sheer amount. I mean, I've been speaking to various people who are putting panels together, and from the way I'm guessing it's working is you're pre-recording or prepping the panel beforehand, and it's going to get put into the program schedule as it
All
goes.
panels are due to, is today June 21st?
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, they're due tomorrow. All panels
Fair
are due tomorrow to be turned in. I know that for example, the Goldbergs on ABC, they're having a panel. Motherland is having a panel. Stumptown, all the cast members are having a panel. TV Guide is holding. So they're still getting some of the larger panels. So I think that Comic-Con at home is going to be much more robust than WonderCon was.
Because at the end of the day, they're not going to be relying on anyone coming in live. It's going to be kind of pre-recorded and slotted into the program. That makes sense. But I think like I say, I've been speaking to a number of people who've been putting panels together, and the panels that I've seen, there are some real niche ones, just like you would get if you were walking down the hall upstairs at above Hall H, just wandering past a panel room, and something catches your eye. And I'm really hoping that they're going to have some way of kind of replicating that, so you have a real breadth and variety of content at Comic-Con at home. I think I'm looking forward to that. The reason why I was asking if there was anyone that you felt was doing it right is I'm looking at, for example, Virtual Pop Expo with the way that they're doing one-on-one ideas. There was also a convention that had an app where you went into various booths, and there was a virtual artist alley. That's the big concern for me, because it's great to have the content and have the video panels, etc. But it's those people that were selling wares, the ones that were actually putting themselves out there to sell things, artwork, anything that they were producing. They have lost that massive revenue stream of a massive audience. And that's where I'm hoping that Comic-Con at home, with WonderCon, they basically had their vendors list and they put a bunch of URLs. I'm hoping that San Diego Comic-Con, they work something out that they can actually have the vendors put their stall out in a virtual space.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I think planning is different because they've mentioned a virtual exhibitor floor. So I think they are working on improving what they did from WonderCon because of that, and same with Emerald City Comic Con, because Emerald City Comic Con was kind of like the jump start to the con season here on at least the West Coast. So not only did Emerald City Comic Con get canceled, but so did WonderCon, and because they're both within distance of each other. So I think they are working on it. They haven't released a lot of updates, but their website, like I'm on it right now, and they're a lot more on their website than they usually are. Like they have this Comic-Con museum at home where they're doing tutorials, like cosplay tutorials, like building Thor's hammer. So with seeing what they're putting online and their social media, I have faith that they're really working harder to make that happen. So
fair enough. A couple of comments coming in. Aaron Neighbors, Mainframe Comic-Con and Alt FCD by Russell Nolte and Neo Nemond has been my favorite online cons so far. The Virtual Pop Expo was by Bernie Bregman, which Dan was mentioned. That's the one that he was talking about. Not quite a virtual convention, but Josh Gad has been hitting it out the park, hoping that's what SDCC copies.
This stuff has been great.
Hasn't it just been incredible what he's been doing?
The Goonies reunion was my favorite. I loved it.
Yeah.
Back in the Future, so great.
In fact, the only thing that's letting down Josh Gad's Reunited Apart is Josh Gad. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan. I'm not the biggest fan, and I think I'm not going to go diving into it again, but the less said about Artemis Fowl, the better. Let's just move on. We have got a couple of questions regarding yourselves and what your personal. I think this one's a really general one, and certainly about conventions that you've been to in the past. Luke Cheeseman, what's your favorite panel or panels that you've been to? How big a target do you want to aim for? Go for it. I mean, can you pick a favorite out of the ones you've been to?
In my whole entire life? I mean, I can tell you the most memorable experience at a San Diego Comic-Con I had was definitely the 2015, the Star Wars The Force Awakens panel, where we were in Hall H, and poor Kevin Smith was scheduled to speak afterwards, but Chris Hardwick had everybody stand up, leave the convention center, go out behind the convention center for the big John Williams concert with fireworks over the bay there. That's the most memorable. I can't say it's my favorite. I like you were talking, Leonard, I like the smaller panels. I like the ones where you get to see like Boom Comics always has such an impressive panel of what they're coming up for the next year, and because it's into small writers, and I mean Boom's getting big, but it's like independent writers, independent storytellers telling good stories that you're not going to have in mainstream comics. I love Boom Comics. I love their panels. I went to a Ray Harryhausen retrospective one time about the guy who did all the special effects for the Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger and Clash of the Titans. That was a small panel, but it was amazing. So those are the kind of panels I love. What about you, Katie?
I do like some of the small panels. We saw the John Barrowman Anything Goes panel a couple of years ago at the Indigo Ballroom, and
I've yet to experience that man live.
It's a delight, and when he says anything goes, like usually there's multi ages in the audience, don't curse. He doesn't care. He's out in a dress and heels, dancing around, cursing, like he doesn't care. So that was really fun. I do always say, like, walk into random room if you have time. That's always what I say, because that's how I randomly stumbled upon a few different panels for big celebrities being on smaller panels in smaller rooms. Like Matt Smith was in the EW panel for like Brave New Warriors or whatever it is for Doctor Who, but trying to get into Hall H is a pain. But this one was in Ballroom 20. It wasn't full. He was there. You get to see some cool people. But as far as probably my favorite and most memorable panel, it's got to be the last Supernatural panel that happened last year. Just because it's hard to keep people's attention on a Sunday of Comic-Con. You're exhausted. You just want to go home. But that crowd is always pumped up. They gave away a replica of Baby. Like, they brought it, and there was not a dry eye, I don't think, in that house. So, and unfortunately, I missed the time when Kansas came to time. I missed that panel, but yeah. And so I like those ones because they do it for the fans. I like the panels that are very focused on the fact that the fans are there and the people who love their art. So
last year, you also had one of your best experiences as well. Speaking of Supernatural, what was it?
Meeting Jared Padalecki. So at a party. So that was obviously the hype of non-panels, like doing that. But yeah, and that's another thing. You never know who you're going to see randomly in downtown San Diego.
This is true. I mean, for myself, I think I can pull some of the big ones out of the hat. I mean, for example, the Avengers reveal in Hall H in 2010 was that was something else, especially when about 2 or 3 actors in, you just went, they're going to bring the whole lot out. Excellent. I'm down with this. I think the Interstellar panel as well, because I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan, and it was the fact that it was a Paramount panel and they hadn't announced anything. It was
nobody knew he was going to be
TBD.
there.
It was TBD all the way through, and it was a case of then McConaughey comes out, and I just went, no, they're not. At which point, and I was on my feet. But yeah, I mean, it's like one of the first years I went. I was walking past, and there was a computer animation panel, and the future of computer animation, and it was in one of the smallest rooms. It was like 50 seat. I mean, what the hell? Went in, and as it happened, they were trying to do a beam in from various people, and the internet had completely crapped out. So they ended up showing the mock-up trailer. This was the guys that did the Rabid Rabbits video game, and they did that trailer for the kind of their take on the Rocketeer, and it became from that just a massive celebration of Dave Stevens. Just for half an hour, 40 minutes, it was just everyone in the room just. Oh, well, we'll watch the trailer again, but let's just talk about Dave Stevens for 40 minutes. And it came out of nowhere, and it was just incredible. And then I can't also ignore the Jim Lee panels, if anything, because yes, I did do the introduction when I was working as staff volunteer, and I gave the introduction where he turned around and said, "That's the best introduction I've ever been given at Comic-Con." Pat myself on the back for that one.
Yeah.
But also just the how-to panels which he does upstairs. It is, at the end of the day, it's not how to draw. It is just him doing sketches, and people hopefully can win these sketches. And every single time, it's a case of him spending 20 minutes on this piece, getting 15 minutes in, and going, you know what, guys, I don't think this one's going to work. This is the one where it's all going to. This one's where it's all going to go horribly wrong. I can't see how I'm going to fix this. 1 second. Gets the white marker, masterpiece on the page, and you just go, and you actually blink twice and go, how the hell did he just do that? What the hell just it was a mess. It was a god awful mess on the page. I blinked twice and it's a masterpiece. I don't know how the hell he does it, but yeah, those, like you say, the small those random moments, those small intimate panels are just amazing. That's where I'm hoping that those moments aren't going to be lost this year, because that's going to be the difficult thing.
You know, the things that are hardest to replicate, though, like just what you just described, everybody can do. I like the online presentations we're seeing, but the things that we're losing, for example, 2 years ago, I was sitting in it wasn't a small room, but it was a smaller room where Marv Wolfman we were doing a spotlight on Marv Wolfman, and he talked about writing one of my all-time favorite series is the Teen Titans. And then he did a special series on Raven, a character from the Teen Titans. And I was so intrigued. And I just wanted, and I was one of the guys trying to ask a question, and I couldn't get in to ask a question because the line was too long. So I was kind of disappointed about that. But then that night we went to the Comic Book Defense League dinner or a party, and I'm just sitting there looking at pictures on the wall, and I turn and I bump into who else? Marv Wolfman. Just me and him sitting there, and I was able to talk with him one-on-one for about 7 or 8 minutes, and that's one of those experiences that we're missing. I love what we're trying to do online, but that is what we're missing out this year.
Yeah.
I'm jealous as hell because I've been invited to a couple of those, and I think it was Fred Van Lente who invited me to the last one, and obviously I didn't go because fool. There we go. Let's go through a couple of the comments. Into the Blue Mister is saying Len's going to say the Firefly panel. I'll put a tenner on it. You lost that bet. There you go. But I think it's just because there is so many panels, and indeed the comment is quite right from Solicitor Meg. I don't know. It feels wrong to compare panels. It's like comparing apples to oranges. All of them are great in their own way. You're absolutely right. And then Luke Cheeseman goes, well, actually, the Loki one looked awesome. I wish I could have seen that in person. Yeah, that whole Loki monologue and that moment.
Yeah.
I'm sad I never got to see that.
That was the year that Caroline broke her ankle on preview night. So she was she'd done the Friday. She was absolutely wiped, so she couldn't leave the bed on Saturday. So I decided to stay home and be den mother, looking after her. And I was just glued. I was glued to Twitter, just as all these announcements were rolling.
Twitter is like the way to get news at Comic-Con, especially. Yeah. Like,
what's your take on that then? Because it's certainly from around 2012, 2013, walking down the corridor, say above Hall H or just around those halls, just above the exhibition floor, the next floor up.
Yes.
Having to keep a close eye on who's walking in front of you because they are glued to their phone. Because there's so much stuff happening at San Diego. If they miss anything, they're screwed. So they're constantly glued to their phone. Yeah. What's been your take on that whole idea of trying to keep an eye on absolutely everything at once?
I think it's just you just get used to it. I mean, it's part of the con experience in some ways. I mean, I do put down my phone in certain situations. I try not to be on it, of course, during the panels and stuff out of respect and everything like that. But I know for if there's something especially with the giveaways and all the autograph signings and things like that you constantly need to know those updates. That's where you have to have it, and it's hard. You have to find the time to manage it, but you can, and that's why you have to bring a portable charger because your phone's always dying. Yeah. But it's in some ways the cons have been virtual for.
I think that's what I was alluding to.
Yeah,
I think that's what I was. Yeah.
Yeah. So not much different in that sense.
Absolutely. In terms of the content that we will be seeing at Comic-Con at home, what panels would you like to see? I mean, a question has come up. Is there anything that you would like to see being represented at this year's virtual San Diego Comic-Con?
I don't think that we're going to get the big Hall H panels. Although, did you hear about DC Fandom?
Very basically, much so.
basically DC Warner Brothers they're creating their own convention. They're taking their Hall H presentation and they're having it a 24-hour. It's August 27th, August 22, starting at 1 p.m. They're gonna have. I know that James Gunn and the cast of Suicide Squad 2, they're all going to be there. They're going to have all their. Basically, they're not giving up. They're going to have an all-day convention. But that being said, a DC panel is one I would love to see. But so I'll be watching that. But as far as like San Diego or the other cons, I do want some of those smaller things. I know that Tony Kim, we've talked about him a couple times. He's having every year he has how to build a geek brand.
He is doing one. Excellent.
Yeah, he's doing one this year. It's called. I texted him, and his is called "Build a Geek Brand During a Pandemic" panel. But think about it though, like that's such an important for those of us in the business and people that want to know. That's such an important panel to be, right now in the age of COVID. And next year, how do you do this now?
Yeah. I mean, he also does a really good panel on minority voices in geekdom as well. Right now, I think that panel is crucial. So I'm hoping that he's going to be invited on to put that panel together as well. I'm really curious to see how they're going to possibly replicate the bigger room kind of events. Like I say, DC won't be representing, but we could be seeing something from the likes of Paramount, from Sony, from the animation companies, whoever. Pixar could do something. Leica could do something on their new film, which they've announced, which is now computer generated. So it'd be really cool to have that. I mean, Luke Cheeseman saying it would be awesome if Wonder Woman did something. That's going to be part of DC fandom.
I bet you they will be,
as is, I understand. Well, we're definitely going to be getting the Zack Snyder Justice League that's been represented. So basically, everything that's involved in DC, that's basically where that is. I'm really curious to see how they're going to balance everything and how they're going to actually put that into some form of almost like a separate channels. Because if they just relied on the one YouTube channel, I think that's where things could get really kind of awkward. And it'd be great to have multiple tracks, as it were, just like we have in the schedule book, where we have different rooms.
I think they're going to do that this year. They're going to try to make it where you have choices. Like Katie, I know that like you were talking about cosplay panels, like in the cosplay event for WonderCon was a little bit lacking, but hopefully for San Diego it'll be a little bit more robust.
Yeah, I mean, I believe they announced they're still going to do the masquerade just online. So, I mean, that's something, because obviously that's a big cosplay event for Comic-Con and WonderCon, and we didn't get it for WonderCon. And with WonderCon, they did a cosplay contest, but I didn't know about it to enter. Like, I would have kept making a costume if I had known about it a month before. But when I heard the cons got canceled, I'm like, well, I guess I'm not gonna make a cosplay. So I do like that Comic-Con knows very much that is a very, very popular niche that they need to address in this convention, is the cosplay community, which has a lot of issues in and of itself too. But to leaving cosplay out of San Diego Comic-Con, you can't really do it. It's such a big part of it. So,
how are they going to do a masquerade? I mean, the only way I can possibly see it is if people record a video of their works, their efforts, and they kind of do it as a live presentation of all the separate videos. Not only that, but that would be a true Comic-Con International masquerade. Then that would be something.
That would be cool. I would like that,
because you could still watch it, and then I mean, as far as the judging, they wouldn't even have to wait till the day of to judge it. They could pick them from all their throughout the whole time that they've had it. Or what I would love to see is for the masquerade to incorporate some sort of at-home experience, in the sense that maybe you can vote and there's a fan favorite or something like that. Something where you can just go, oh, there's all these videos. Who's your favorite? And do like a home vote. And that's something that I feel like the masquerade in general hasn't done. They've never done a fan choice. So that would be kind of a cool thing to see what do the fans think? Who do they think is the winner?
That would be nice. So Luke Cheeseman, as long as they do the laugh thing when they introduce them. It has to be done. Has to be done.
I want them to, because what I'm excited about is I hear that they're still doing the Eisner Awards, the presentation somehow during Comic-Con.
That I want to see.
Yes.
That I want to see how they're going to do. I'm really curious to see how they're going to pull that off. I've been trying to get the people behind the Eisners to come on. At the end of the day, you have to go through that single voice, and it's difficult to get past David's iron grip on the narrative. But at the end of the day, we can only try. The great thing about putting a video package together as well, you could also show the work that goes into them. Says Jonathan. That's a very, very good point.
Yeah, that's something I've always been kind of wishing they would show. So with cosplay, I feel like there's a lot of angles that are not addressed in panels. So it would be nice to have them be like, oh, we're going to do a more behind the scenes look at cosplay. Because if we're filming from home, people can show their workstation.
Absolutely.
They can show this is what's going on. You can't bring all that to a convention. It would be hard and difficult with how much stuff you have. But at home, you could totally do that.
Just give them a 60-second time frame.
Yeah.
So then they don't just have to do the presentation of the cosplay itself. They could actually make a presentation video of that would be very, very cool. Solicitor Smeg, I'm cosplaying as Guy who just woke up that may or may not have pants on this year. And Luke Cheeseman, I'm cosplaying Brian Wilson. That's a mental image I'm not entirely sure I needed. No, we'll take it on. To take it on board. Actually, Luke's got a couple of comments, and especially about what you two are getting up to. This is I don't know how much we can reveal, but we are doing. Me and Jim will be on a panel, full-time creative work on a part-time schedule at Comic-Con, talking the con guy and the scare guy. That's really cool. With a group of creative professionals. Just let me jump in on that real quick. It's a 12-year-old panel. It's been at Comic-Con and WonderCon for about 12 years, and we're doing it again this year. And so for those of us who are trying to have a full-time creative career, how do you squeeze it into your career? And Luke wanted me to also mention that the con guy has, and me and Katie were talking about Friday the 13th. We also do the scare guy, which is kind of the scarier side of the con guy. So it's a cool way for us to do horror conventions as well. Fair enough.
And there's so many horror events in Southern California.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Right. We usually try and keep it within an hour, and I've just blinked and realized we're at 10 past. So tell you what, I think we'll just ask one last question or one last topic, and then we'll let you guys get off and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And it is about Comic-Con for next year, or when we're looking at 2021 and what we can possibly expect. I mean, we've had a couple of people on the show over the last couple of weeks who do feel that we have to have some form of optimism. We have to have some form of getting back to some kind of normality. But 2021, it's still going to be very much in that time frame of what we could be seeing in the window of the pandemic, in the age of COVID-19. What do you see as San Diego Comic-Con 2021, and indeed other conventions as well? Do you see us getting back to normality even in the course of the next 12 months?
Katie?
I freaking hope so. Yeah, I mean, every day that I've been in this quarantine, I just miss conventions. Conventions are, I'm sure most of our viewers and you guys as well, are one of my happy places. So it's like a vacation, even though it's not a vacation, because we all know we don't sleep. But I would hope so. That's a long time to be able to figure out a way to make things work. So I'm hoping that with the time that they have, they'll be able to kind of forecast, what are we going to do if this happens? What's going to happen if we do this? And kind of put in more places. I think in some ways, COVID-19 will cause a lot of good things that maybe needed to be reworked in the convention. So I'm hoping if it is coming back in 2021, that they'll be able to fix some of the problems that they might have had before and made it stronger than ever. And instead of just always doing things the same way they've always done. So
if anything, this could really streamline and really kind of knuckle down some of those rough edges to some conventions and really make them really kind of tight in terms of their organization and security and the fan experience. No, I think you're right. Jim, what's your thoughts?
I think San Diego will happen. I think WonderCon is it's 50-50 right now. I just think it's going to take for people to feel comfortable coming to a convention, there has to be a vaccine. There has to be, or I think 50% of the fans will still come, but the guests, studios and companies allowing their guests to fly across the world, across the country to attend conventions, paying for insurance. I just think that they're not going to take the risk yet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, fingers crossed, prayers are up that by the end of the year, beginning of next year, we'll have some kind of great medical news coming out. But even then, who knows how long it's going to take for this immunity among the population to build up. Even then, I do think, like Katie said, there's going to be it'll look different next year. I don't know what the waiting line for Hall H will look like.
Yeah.
I don't know what these things will look like.
I think also the interaction with talent as well. I mean, we've kind of alluded to it as well that we may not see a number of legacy talent wanting to risk journey at this point. Talent generally getting on a plane is going to be to convince them to make that happen is going to be difficult. I mean, we've got Leanne D, who's about to leave us. Hello, Leanne, and goodbye, Leanne. I have to go pack. I'm flying out to Tampa in the morning. I hope everyone has a wonderful, safe week. At which point, Solicitoress Meg, if anyone coughs, feel free to toss them out of the plane mid-flight. And indeed, make sure you wash your hands after you toss them. Yeah, I think it's I am hoping that we have some form of. I mean, it's like we say, this could really kind of streamline line management. It could streamline the experience, and I'm hoping for the best. I'm with Katie on this one. I'm being optimistic.
Leonard, Comic-Con fans, this community they're the best people in the world. Hands down, I would go to bat for them every time. And if there are ways to do things better, to do things safer, it's going to happen here. And even though we were talking, the Black Lives Matter and diversity, this is a community that embraces that. So I just think I agree with you guys. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for the future of conventions.
Yeah. I also think that we're going to see a lot of Hannibal Lecter cosplay. I think we're going to see a lot of Breaking Bad cosplay. Anything involving a mask.
Bane.
Bane. Lots of Bane.
Yeah, and I'm also curious if the mask policies will change, because there's always been like restrictions on what you can and can't wear at cons. But I'm curious if they're going to be a little bit more lenient on the mask situation in the future. Like, well, you're being safe. It's all good. Your face is covered.
Yeah. The Scare Guy horror fans should be first back. We have the best mask. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Horror conventions, everybody's wearing masks, so it's all good.
Excellent stuff. Right then, this has been a fun conversation. I mean, I know the topics haven't exactly been fun, but I think we've been optimistic. I think we're looking to the future, and I think we're looking to an improved convention experience down the line. I think we can all kind of look to those conventions and those opportunities. I mean, we talk about, and the reason why I do these shows, it's not necessarily the talent that we go see or the panels we go and see, the offsites, the experiences. It is the family of fans that we make at these shows, and that's what I think that we're missing. And I personally can't wait to get back to my family again. It's just been, like I say, I think it's been a fun conversation, and I hope everyone's enjoyed it as well. Katie, Jim, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much indeed for coming on our first podcast mashup.
The pleasure is all ours, Leonard.
It's just been so much fun. If you could please let everyone know, I mean, we've got it there on the screen. It's theconguy.com. But if you can let everyone know once again what people can experience at the site, and also what you get up to.
Well, at the site, sorry. I'll tell the site, and then we'll pitch it to Katie. So at the site, we are all about convention coverage, but also we're trying to replicate a lot of panels that are happening right now. We just want fans to come experience what they are missing at Comic-Cons. And when Comic-Cons come back, we're going to be there with you guys. So check us out at theconguy.com, also at thescareguy.com. And we can't wait to talk to you guys online. Also, if you are watching this podcast on our website right now at The Con Guy, make sure you check out Leonard's podcast. every week, twice a week. It is one of the best sources of information you guys can get. So I just want you guys to always be checking out Leonard as well.
Okay. I'm filling up here. I'm filling up.
Katie.
And yeah, you can. I do a lot of the social media. I try to like keep retweeting and liking updates on all of the Con Guy social media and Scare Guy social media on Instagram and Twitter. And then my personal is KT_Christine, which is on the screen, and that's across all social media, including Twitch. So with the downtime, I've taken up Twitch to kind of communicate with other video game fans. If you're a video game fan, you can find me there too.
Excellent stuff. And for myself, if you are watching this on the Con Guy, yes, thank you so much indeed for the kind words from Jim. You can find me on our social media on Englishman SDCC, on Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, and also on our Facebook page as well, an Englishman in San Diego. We are live each and every Wednesday and Sunday. I paused there because I do have every once in a while some incidental episodes, and there is one due with Joe Illidge from Heavy Metal Magazine. That's going to be announced.
Nice!
It's he's a sweetheart, is that guy. But we're going to get into his career. We're going to get into all sorts of topics, including one or two topics that have been raised in recent days on social media. Joe has been a strong supporter of creators, and we're going to get into some of the unsettling moments of comics and the comics industry, but we're going to cover everything. That's the great thing about Joe. The conversation goes everywhere. That is going to be an incidental episode, so please do like and subscribe and hit notifications. So when we go on air at some random time, please do join us on that. Guys, thank you so much indeed for watching. I really appreciate it. To Jim and to Katie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much indeed for coming on.
Pleasure's ours.
Having us.
Excellent stuff. Take care and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Cheers.
Excellent.
Bye.
Oh, bye. Right. I am going to do a quick plug for the rest of the episodes for the month, and also what's going to be coming up in July as well. So I'm very quickly going to bring up basically what we've got lined up for. Let me just see if I can get rid of that, because we've got ourselves 2 great episodes left for this month. We have got ourselves Bill Sienkiewicz, which will be joining us on Wednesday. And I know that is not going to be confirmed until he's on screen, but fingers crossed, he is going to be joining us. We've been speaking to him throughout the course of the last week, and he is all ready to go and join us on that show. That's going to be this Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. And then on the last Sunday of this month, we do have the return of Russ Burlingame and Mike Avelia. Now, this was, we had the last Sunday of last month, we had the guys on, and the world's changed since then. It's safe to say that social upheaval and various events in the comics community and comics industry is going to make for an interesting conversation. So it's great to have Mike and Russ back on. We just kind of shoot the shit for an hour, and they are really good guys to come on and talk to us about that. That's going to be happening. We have yet to get our guests really nailed down for July, but we are going to be doing something a little bit special for the Comic-Con week. We're not going to be doing what I wanted to do, which was a full week of programming from 10 a.m. Pacific. 10 a.m. Pacific for about 5 hours. I was wanting to do 5 hours worth of panels each day throughout the convention of what would have been San Diego. However, that would have been treading on San Diego's toes, and now they've got their own stuff to do. So I'm not going to do that. But what we are going to do is a Comic-Con after party. It's going to take place on the Saturday. It is going to be a Zoom event, and it is going to be a way that we're going to be putting some music on. We're going to have some chats. We're going to have some events. We're going to have some quizzes, possibly some karaoke. Basically, if you can grab yourself an adult beverage or two and join us for this, it's going to be an after party at a Comic-Con, except it's going to be after Comic-Con at home. We're also going to try and do something where we can try and raise some money for a charitable donation. But we're working on some details. We're also working on our guests for next month. And of course, if there's anyone that you want us to see on the show, please do drop us a line, tag them into a tweet, perhaps, let them know we're existing, and we'll try and get them on next month. That's us. Thank you very much indeed for your company. Hope you've enjoyed our show, our mashup between An Englishman in San Diego and the Con Guy. Back again on Wednesday with Bill Sienkiewicz. From me to you, take care.